Everyone, myself Ron Singh and welcome back to my channel. So previously we learned about the platform independency in Java. So how it was achieved. We'll have just a quick recap, then we'll move further. So yesterday we saw that we were having our source code and the compiler used to compile this, right? So the Java compiler used to compile this. So the compiler converts this source code to bytecode, and this bytecode was then used by JVM, right? So JVM was doing what? It was taking this bytecode and executing it line by line, and it was giving us the results. Clear? So yesterday we just saw this on slide, right? So now today we'll see that in action. So before moving to any programming stuff, first we need to have a knowledge of what are classes and main method in Java. So let's begin with the classes, and then we'll move on to the main method, and then we'll see all this stuff in action. Yes, so in this slide we'll be seeing what are classes. So over here I have stated that classes are an object constructor. So we'll see what are object as we move further, maybe after few session, but for today we'll focus more on classes. So classes are object constructor, means they are used for constructing an object, or we can say it is a blueprint or a prototype for creating object. So this point won't be clear much at this instant, but later it will be very much clear to all of you. But for now we'll see what are classes in a simple language. So the second point over here says that it describes the content, that is state. So for example, you are having some list for buying some items for your house, but there should be one thing in which you can store this list, for example a paper, a file, or some document, right? So that's what a class is. It is just a container in which we are giving all the functionality to it. So we'll write, for writing any code and executing it, we need a class. So class is must, right? So we'll see how do we declare a class. So first of all, the basic syntax of declaring a class, we need to write a keyword. This is a reserved keyword called as class. So this will tell the compiler that this is a class. Okay, so this keyword class is reserved, and then we'll write a name, means we'll give a name to our class. For example, any, for example alphabets, letter, car, vehicle, anyone. Then we'll start with the curly braces. So inside this curly braces we will have our class body, that is the code we need to give to this class. Okay, so now we'll see how can we define a class and how is the dot class file is generated behind the scenes. Okay, so first of all we'll see what is main method, then we'll see all of this stuff in action. So now we'll see what is main method. So first of all, whenever you want to run your program, main method is must, means your program starts the execution with the main method. But you may have heard that without main method the program won't compile. It is wrong. If you don't have main method, your program will compile but it won't get executed. So it will compile but it won't get executed. Okay, so now we'll see how do we declare a main method. So the main method must be declared as public static void, and we'll see why it need to be declared as public static and void later, and it will be very much clear to all of you. So for today we'll just declare a main method and we'll give some functionality to it. So what happens behind the scene is, when we run a Java hello world program or any program, here I just gave an example of hello world, but it's for all of the program. So whenever we run a program, we are running it, okay, not compiling it. So whenever we run a program, JVM loads the bytecode, and this bytecode is given by whom? The compiler, right? The compiler converts the source code to the bytecode. So this bytecode is then taken by JVM. JVM is what? The interpreter, right? Yes, so the bytecode is given by compiler and it has been taken by interpreter, that is JVM. Okay, so bytecode of hello world class, and we saw that, right? Whenever we compile a code, it converts a dot class file of that class, right? So for example, my class name is hello world, it will create a dot class file. So maybe it won't be much clear in this theory portion, but after few minutes we'll just move on to our IDE, then we'll see what is dot class file and all that. Okay, so we saw this point must be declare public static void. For main method we invoke another code. Okay, so and the program ends when the main method ends. So for example, you are having your main method like this, and you are saying something like print this, print that, and it will execute only the stuff inside this. Okay, means you may have stuff like, for example, you are having a class, your name, class name, and inside that you are having a main method. So whatever you give commands to this main method, only that command will get executed, not other than that. Okay, so we'll see this. Let's move to our Eclipse, then it will be more clear to all of you. Yes, so what we'll do, we'll just create a class. Yes, so maybe we can give the name as hello world, finish. Yes, so now we'll see where this file has been generated. Properties, yes, so we'll just copy this path and we'll move to our file explorer. So over here, if I just paste this, yes, so over here what we are having, just the hello world, right? Hello world with the Java file, that is .java extension, right? We are not having any class file. So now we'll see, is main method required for compiling a program? Let's see. Over here I'll just say open in terminal. You can also use your CMD, it's up to you, but it's the same. So I just go through all the path in which my file is located, and now I'll see whenever you want to compile your code, first you need to compile your code, right? The compiler will convert the code to the bytecode and then you need to run the bytecode, right? So for compiling you use the Java C command. Note this, it is Java C. Okay, and then after that you just need to give the file name like hello Java C hello world dot java, right? So the file name is hello world dot java, right? So now if there are any issues like syntax error or any error, then it won't compile fine, it will give us an error, but over here it compiled fine, right? So we are not having any error, means the code is right. And now we'll move on to over here. See, now we have created a dot class file, so we can compile a code without the main method, but we cannot execute our code. Okay, so now for execution we'll just say Java and the file name. The file name is hello world, right? See, now it will say no main method found. See, main method not found in the class hello world. Please define the main method as public static void main string args. So now what we'll do, we'll just define a main method. Okay, so as I said, public static void main, and inside the parenthesis we need to give string args. So we'll cover the string args when we move to arrays. Now we have the main method, right? Now if I just try to run this code, we don't need, see, okay, now what's the scenario over here is the code has been changed, right? So we haven't compiled it again. So now if I just compile it, now the main method, bytecode of the main method has been generated in the dot class file. Now if I just run this, it will execute fine. We don't have any command to give, right? Means we haven't give any command to execute, so we are having no output. So we'll just print something. So for printing, for example, you need to print Java. So for printing any sentence or word, you need to use this system dot out dot println. So, and inside the double quotes you can give anything that you want to print. For example, I want to print Java in the console, right? So now I'll say Java hello world. See, again we won't get the output because we haven't compiled the new code, right? The bytecode for this new code, that is the new line that has been added, is not been added to the bytecode. So we need to compile this first, like hello world dot java, right? Now it has no error, it compiled fine. Now I'll just run this by saying Java hello world, or we can just say this. See, it printed Java. Now let's break this. For example, I don't write this semicolon. Okay, now if I just compile, it will again work fine, because sorry, I run this file, so it will again give the right value because we haven't yet created the bytecode for this new line that has been modified. So for this we need to compile it first. Now it says there is an error, semicolon expected at the end of system.out.println Java line, right? So we are getting an error at the time of the compilation itself. So when we want to compile a file, what we need to give the command is java c space the file name, right, with the .java extension. And when I want to run a file, we say java and our file name. So I'll just fix this by giving the semicolon. Now if I just run this, first I need to compile this, right? Yes. So java's, okay, sorry, I haven't added the .java extension. Yes, so it compiled fine. Now I want to run this. Yes, now I want to run this, it will give the right value. So let's see if I want to print more stuff, like yeah, so I want to write programming. Now again we need to compile this, right? So I'll just compile the source code. Now bytecode is generated, but see, no another class file will be created, only this class file will be modified each time when we compile the file, otherwise it will lead to memory issues, right? So only this file is always modified. We don't have to means not always the dot class file is created again and again. If the dot class file is present, it will just update the pre-existing dot class file. Clear? Now I said java, print java and print programming, right? So what is the command? We compiled this, right, and it compiled fine. So what is the command for execution? Java space file name. See, it says java and programming, but both of them are in a different line, right? So what if I want to align them in the same line? So see, this ln means I want to, just hold on, this ln says that, for example, print java and move the cursor to the next line. Okay, so for example, over here I said that println, so println will say print java, move the cursor over here. Now we said that print programming, so it will print programming and it will again move the cursor over here, right? So if I again said say something to print, then it will again move to the next line. So what if I want to print the programming over here, means at the same line? So if I just delete this ln, now what will happen? Java and the cursor won't go over here, it will stay over here only. Now I said that programming, so it will be at this same line. Okay, so let's see this also. Yes. So now I said that system.out.print no ln. So yes, we can directly use this button for compiling and executing at the same time. So we just don't want to again say java c and java command again and again. If I just do this, it will just print the code inside this class, and the output is java programming. We haven't give any spaces, right? If I just give this space, now it says that java space programming. So what happened over here is, yes, yeah, so what happened at the line 5th, I said that print java, and is there ln over here? No, so cursor won't go to over here, right? So it will stay over here only. I said programming, but there is a space, so it is like java and space, and now I said that programming, so it is java programming, right? So the output is same. Clear to all of you? Now what's the scenario behind the scene? We compiled our class, so class file name is hello world dot java. Now I compiled the source code. So who is the compiler? Java compiler is java c, right? Means it's just a command. So java c, the class name, that is hello world dot java. So this converted this source code to a bytecode, right? So this bytecode is nothing but hello world dot class file. Now this class file is taken by JVM, that is interpreter, right? Now this interpreter searches for the main method inside the class. So is there main method inside this class? Yes. Where is it? At the line 4. Okay, so now is that public static void string args? Yes, right. So the syntax is right, so the main method has been found successfully. So now it will say the code inside this will execute it, right? So the line 5th, as I said, JVM will search, execute line by line, right? So it will go line by line. So at the 5th line it says that system.out.print java. So it will print java space, right? And then it will say ln is not there, so it won't go to another line, it will stay over here only, right? So it says print system.out.println programming. So programming, right? So now the output is java space programming, and do we have got the same? Yes. So we saw the internal working, right? With the complete the source code we wrote, the compiler does the work of conversion to the bytecode. The bytecode is java hello world.class, and this hello world.class is interpreted by JVM, and interpreted in which manner? Line by line. But before interpretation will only execute, right? Means the execution will only take place if there is a main method. So who searches for the main method? The interpreter, that is JVM, right? Not the compiler. So our class can compile fine if we don't have the main method, but it won't execute. Okay, so main method is there, then only it will execute line by line, otherwise it will give us an error that no main method found, please create one, right? Clear to all of you? Now here's a question like, hold on, hello world dot java. So now the question is this hello world dot java class file platform independent? The answer is no. We'll see why. See, what we yesterday we saw that the compiler and the interpreter, right? Compiler fast execution, sorry, interpreter slow execution, compiler platform dependent, right? And this is platform independent. So now what happens that this compiler is platform dependent, so we wrote the code, so the code is in the hello world.java file, right? The file name is hello world.java. So this hello world.java is not platform independent, okay? But as soon as the compiler converts this to the hello world dot class, so this dot class file, that is hello world dot class file, that is a bytecode, is platform independent. So the java extension file is not platform independent, the dot class file is platform independent. So just keep this in mind, okay? You may encounter a question like this, okay? So this is independent to platform, means this code, that is this bytecode hello world.java, can be ran on any machine, okay? So this code can run on any machine, in means irrespective of the operating system, let it be Windows, let it be Mac, let it be Linux, or any such, okay? So now this dot class file is platform independent, but not this dot java file. So as soon as we compile this code, the compiler converts this to bytecode, right? So the bytecode is platform independent. Clear to all of you? So we saw the inner working also, right? Means how the execution takes place. So over here we are having just the 7 lines of code, but behind the scene the process was way too long, right? The .java file, then compiler converts it to .class file. The .class file is the bytecode taken by the interpreter. Interpreter is JVM searches for the main method. If main method present, then execute the code line by line, otherwise give us an error. So now the program, means the program terminate as soon as the main method terminates, okay? So the life of the main method is just these blocks, right? So inside this block of code, whatever we write is the life of main method, means it will execute only these two commands. If something is outside that, we'll see how do we declare something outside this class, means at the class level. But for now we'll say that if there is some code over here and we are not printing or performing any task with it, so it won't get executed. It will get compiled, but it won't get executed, because main method, as we said, the program starts with the main method, means execution starts with the main method. So whatever the main method will say, it will do that. For example, we'll just again go through it, like the main method is found, right? So it will say what are the block of code that main method is saying, only the commands of the main method will be followed. So at the 5th line it says that, okay, print this. Okay sir, I'll print this. Okay, so there is a space, right? So it printed this. Now it will clear. Now this line is completed, it will move to the next line. So the next line says that print this. So programming, right? Yes. Now there is an ln, so the cursor will move to the next line. Okay, now it says that, is there any other line after that? No. So the program terminates, right? So the only the program will execute the command that are given by the main method. So if we want to perform any task, we need to give our command in the main method. So clear to all of you? Any doubts? Yes, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment sections, okay, and we'll solve it out. So yes, we saw the classes. What are classes? Object, constructor. So for today you don't have to worry about what are object and object constructor. We'll see that in detail, okay, don't worry. But we saw the syntax, how do we declare a class, and main method. Now the naming rule, but before that we'll again just have a quick recap on what we have learned. Mhm. Yes, so we saw the syntax of declaring a class. So for now, don't worry about this public keyword, since I am using the Eclipse, so it is just giving it by default. But you can means you can omit this if you are using your notepad or anything for programming. So the syntax was class, right? So this class is a keyword, right? That's the reason why it has been highlighted in purple, right? Then we gave the class name, right? So over here we can just give another name. Then we wrote the main method, and as I said, the execution will only follow, means only follow the command of the main method. Whatever the command given inside the main method will only execute, not outside that, right? Yes. So now the naming rules for classes. Okay, so the naming rules for classes, methods, and variables. So for till now we only covered what are classes, but not in much detail, right? But this will also be covered later. So first of all, we'll see what are the naming convention. So the first character that we write, means if I'm having like hello world, so if I want to give my class name as hello world, so the first character, that is this at the position of this h, can be a letter, underscore, or a dollar symbol. Means it can start with h, a capital H, small h, or it can start with underscore, or it can also start with dollar, but it must not be a number or any special character. For example, if you give at the rate, it won't allow you, it will say invalid syntax. Okay, and if you try to give like to hello world, again it is starting with a number, so again it is not valid. So you need to like be aware about this syntax, that what are the rules for naming a class. So the first character can be a letter, underscore, dollar, but not be a number or any special character. Okay, now the remaining character, that is after the hello world, means after this h, the first character we saw what it can be, but the later one, right? So the later one can be letter, underscore, dollar, or a number. So over here we can have letters like capital H, capital E, or small e, or underscore, or numbers, but not any special characters. Okay, so over here we just got one thing in addition, that are numbers, but in this start we cannot have numbers, right? And the class name, means the class names, variable names, method must not be a reserved keyword. So what are reserved keyword? We just saw an example, like whenever we create a class, we give a reserved keyword called as class, then we give the name of our class, right? And then we start the class body. So this class, as we saw in the Eclipse, it was highlighted as purple, right? So this class is nothing but it is a reserved keyword by the Java expert, okay, given by the Java expert. We cannot use this keyword over here. Like if I want to give my class name as class, it will give us an error because the class is reserved keyword, so it will create a conflict between these two, right? Clear? And Java is case sensitive. Okay, so for example, if you are having one class as apple and another class as apple, or one variable as apple and another with small a, okay, apple, so both of them are different. Okay, so clear to all of you? Java is case sensitive. Okay, now we'll see, can we define a class with a number at the start? Okay, I'll just give 2. Okay, now it will okay, we'll just create a new class. Okay, so I'll start it with like 5 first. See, type name is not valid. The type 5 first is not a valid identifier. Identifier are nothing but that the name we give, that are not a reserved keyword. Okay, means for example, in our this example we gave the class name as hello world. So this class name hello world is nothing but it was given by us, and the antonym of identifiers are reserved keyword, that are the classes. Okay, so we saw that we cannot start a class with number. Can we start it with a underscore? Yes, we can, right? See, it has created a class and it is not giving us any error. See, okay, now, okay, we'll just write a program. Yeah, I'll say system.out.println, say inside underscore first. I'll just give the output. See, we are not having any error because we can use underscore at the first, right? Now I'll just create another class by starting it with a dollar symbol. Okay, so we can say second. Yes, now again we can just cross verify it, and I'll say sysout inside dollar second. See, again there is no error, right? Can I start it with a special character? Let's see, hashtag third. See, again it is saying type name is not a valid, right? But as soon as I give it with a small, like any small letter, it is say okay, means no error, right? You can just ignore this message. Use of default package. We'll see what are packages after many videos, means after going through many stuff. So this is the means the package stuff is very section away. Okay, so now we can also use the means we can also give the name of class with the small letter, right? Or we can also give it with this capital letter, right? And we said that we can use underscore, we can use the dollar symbol, but we cannot use the numbers, right? As soon as we give number, there is a red cross mark over here, right? Clear to everyone? Yes. Now the point that is remaining is this one, right? The reserved keyword. So for example, I'll just use the reserved keyword. See, again it is giving us an error, right? Because the reserved keyword is class is a reserved keyword. For example, over here I'll say class. See, it is again highlighted as purple, right? Means it is a reserved keyword. This public is also a reserved keyword. That's the reason it has been highlighted, right? See, we again cannot use this reserved keyword. Static one is also highlighted. We cannot use the static as well. Okay, so we cannot use the reserved keyword. Clear? Yeah, so the point that is being remaining is Java is case sensitive, right? So it will be more clear when we move to the variables, right? So in the next section we'll deal with the variable declaration. Okay, and after that we'll start with the data type. Then it will be very much clear that what is case sensitivity in Java. So clear to all of you, right? So in this section what we saw, see, previously we saw how what is the flow, right? The source code, compiler compiles, then bytecode, then results, right? So this was the theory portion, right? But today, yeah, sorry, yeah, so today we covered, means we saw all this stuff in practical, right? For example, we created a class as hello world, so it was converted to, means the class was having extension .java. Then after compilation it got converted, means a file got created, right, with the .class extension, and this .class extension file is being used by the JVM searches for the main method, is there main method? Yes, right? So it will execute the code line by line, and we saw this thing in action, right? Yes. Then we saw what are classes, right? And we saw, for now we said that the classes are just the container in which we give our content, right? So it is just holding the state of a, means the state we want to declare. We saw the main method. What is main method? Program starts with the main method and ends with the main method, right? If there is no main method, then the source code will compile, right? But it won't get executed, right? And we saw this thing in with example, right? Means we created a class without the main method, but the dot class file was generated, right? And the dot class file is platform independent, but dot java is platform dependent, right? So clear the difference between these two, dot java file and dot class file, and when it has been created and where, right? And what is the source code and what is the bytecode? The bytecode is the dot class file, and the bytecode is used by the JVM. And what is the uses of the main method, right? Because the execution only starts with the main method and ends with the main method only, right? And we saw the naming convention, that we cannot start a class name with the numbers or any special characters, right? Like this. But the remaining letter can be, the remaining character can be a alphabet, digit, that is number, or underscore, or dollar, right? So we saw this example, and we saw it cannot be a reserved keyword like class, public, static, and many more, right? So it cannot be a reserved keyword. And we said that case sensitivity will be cleared more in the next session, right? So clear to all of you? Yes. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll catch up in the next video with the variable declaration, right? Thank you so much.